call their own home buyer leads. So I remember that. So that is the number one, phone calls, either receptionist duties, follow-up calls, appointment setting calls, warm calls, cold calling, name it. That is, typically the number one tasks that loan officers would delegate to a virtual assistant. Number
Hey, loan officers. Welcome to Loan Officer Growth Podcast, the podcast that helps loan officers grow their business, increase their success, and have more freedom. How are you doing, Gerard? Hey, everybody. Gerard Arboleda is an awesome person. He is co-founder of Remote Assistant Scout. He is a dear friend of mine. And how are you doing, Gerard? How's everything going?
Hey, I'm great, Richard, and I'm here live in the Philippines.
Awesome.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. How long have we known each other?
We've known each other since August of 2012, so it has been 11 years of working together.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is so crazy. So, and I know a lot of people that are listening know who you are. You're like a legend here in finding the best virtual assistants in the Philippines. But we'll kind of go real general. Like what is a virtual assistant for those that are listening that may not know?
So just before I answer the question, 99% of the clients that, we cater are loan officers. And typically this is one of the most common questions that they ask if indeed this is their first time, hearing about virtual assistant, hearing about the industry. So basically as a virtual assistant is, somebody who's working remotely, who could handle admin tasks for you, phone calls, anything that can be done online. So that could be like from other state, or that could be from other countries, for as long as it is on a remote setup. So that is why it's called virtual.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So having somebody remote, somebody that doesn't have to be in your office working, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And that is one of the reasons why, some people or some businesses, opt to hiring virtual assistant, because number one, it's cheap labor. Other than that, they don't have to spend with technology or having, an additional space for a regular employee. But it's, to each his own. It's a case-to-case basis. There are people who would love to, or who loves working with virtual assistants, and there are people also would really prefer a regular employee.
Right.
But if you're leaning towards, the practicality of it, and then, the virtual assistant might be for you.
Yeah, and you made a point, cheap labor, and a lot of people get mixed up that they feel like, if I'm paying a virtual assistant $5 or $6 an hour, that's not really fair for the virtual assistant. But we look at our virtual assistants that we hire are in the Philippines, and it's very different cost of living there, right?
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out. So it's really a win-to-win situation, because $5 per hour offer is really more than decent. If you're going to think about it, minimum wage here in the Philippines is kind of like $3 to $6 per day. That is not per hour, per day.
Wow.
That is minimum. And if you're starting professional, like on a professional level, we can do, like, I guess around 10 to 12 hours per day if you're starting professional. So that is the standard compensation here, in contrast to working online, that you could get a $5 offer or $5 per hour offer, $7 per hour offer. And if you're working full-time, then basically, let's do the math here. So you're earning like $42 per day, which is, more than decent, especially if you're starting.
That's crazy. And the other benefit for the virtual assistants is they get to work from home, so they don't have to commute.
Mhm.
They have the privacy of working out of their home, so there's no distractions. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's amazing. Yeah, so working for $5 to $6 an hour, it just like that's really, really good pay. And so a lot of people get confused with that.
That is very accurate. That, I think 80%, or let's say 70 to 80% of our virtual assistants, or those aspiring virtual assistants, are mothers or parents who would love to, transition from corporate to working online because of the benefits of, just working at home. You don't have to commute. It's cheaper. You get to spend time with your family. Time wise, it's very practical because you can just get up 15 minutes before
Right.
your shift. In contrast to working corporate, that depending on the traffic, you need to be commuting for like 2 to 3 hours per day.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
it's really more practical to work at home, and it is an emerging market given that we've had COVID. So there was a surge of aspiring virtual assistants since 2020.
Right. Yeah, and many, if not most, of the virtual assistants that we hire through Remote Assistant Scout are college graduates. They're professionals, so they have experience like in
Mhm.
the tasks that most loan officers want their virtual assistant to do. So speaking of that, what what do most loan officers want a virtual assistant for? What kind of tasks and strategies do you see?
I I could actually give you the top three. So number one is really doing some phone calls. So phone calls, it could be appointment setting to realtors, appointment setting appointment setting with home buyers. That could be new, present, or past. They could also be working with realtors and having them call their home buyer leads, because it's a win-win situation, just like you did before.
Yep.
So there was a time that it was a slow market, I guess, and then you were working with this five-star realtors, and you had me call their own home buyer leads. So I remember that. So that is the number one: phone calls, either receptionist duties, follow-up calls, appointment setting calls, warm calls, cold calling, name it. That is typically the number one tasks that loan officers would delegate to a virtual assistant. Number two is really on the CRM management. I know how you guys, or how busy you guys can get, that you can't keep track of everyone. Is everyone in your CRM? Is everything accurate in terms of the data that's being, put into either your CRM, your Excel spreadsheet? And that's where the virtual assistant could come in and, organize those for you. And basically what we did before, I'm just going to speak per experience, that I remember that whenever, a new lead comes in, and then it's like an automatic thing that, I send them an email, I'll call them like 5 minutes, or within 5 minutes, we receive the lead, right? That was your instruction. And then after that, we go ahead and add them into their CRM, put them into the right category, adding them into the right email drip campaign, and, do some follow-up calls, follow-up emails, either manually or being automated by the CRM. So that is number two. And number three is really on the digital marketing spectrum. So it's either doing some social media or doing some video editing for you, if you guys are into TikToks or into video marketing in your social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels. So those are the top three. However, we've had loan officers that hired, virtual assistants that could actually help them organize leads during the loan process, and also, follow up with the leads for as long as they are compliant with their company.
Right. Yeah,
Because, I've worked with mortgage bankers, and they're a lot more, stricter in terms of, doing this thing. So that is another question, by the way. So I'm a mortgage banker, and, basically, we cannot give access um, of our CRM of our data to the virtual assistant. So what is the alternative? So we've had this system wherein, that could be put into, an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe um, a Google spreadsheet. So at least it's online. It will be a lot easier for you guys to track. You don't need to, send out Excel files back and forth. You know what I mean? So that is the alternative of just having a separate file or a separate sheet for the virtual assistant to access, the names, the phone numbers, as well as, the email addresses.
Right. You made a couple really good points to the videos. Like if you're a loan officer out there and you do videos, the really cool thing back in the day, 10 years ago, when Gerard was my virtual assistant, I remember all I really had to do was record the video, and everything else got taken care of that, you or other virtual assistants would do. So I just record it and upload it, and then the video gets edited, it gets sent out, it goes on all the different social media. So it's, for me, it was automated. So there was a standard operating procedure and SOP for what would happen once, let's say, you get the video. So it's as much as a loan officer can do to automate their business and focus on money-making activities and prospecting. So all that type of work gets taken care of in the background, which that's the virtual assistant doing. And then you said really what the number one strategy or task that loan officers are having their virtual assistants do is making phone calls, and more importantly, calling real estate agents to set appointments. So cold calling. I know most loan officers do not enjoy doing that. And if they do, they only do it for X amount of time. So it might even be an hour or 2 hours a week. But when you have a virtual assistant doing that, you could have them call 2 hours a day and schedule 10, 15 appointments a week with new real estate agents. And, that alone will grow somebody's business very, very fast. So yeah, that was some good stuff. Do you, you named 3, and we have a document. So anybody listening today, comment below, and we will send you the document that has over 130 tasks that a loan officer can have a virtual assistant do. So you named 3 of the top, but there's still literally 100 more tasks that loan officers have their virtual assistant do. Anything else you can think of off the top of your head that most loan officers are having their VAs do?
Yeah, so I guess, some other loan officers would really have like a closer virtual assistant. So when I say closer, they take care of the closing activities, like, sending out closing gifts. Or you may ask, how did the virtual assistant do that? And then, maybe order from Amazon, or order from, online shops that you can actually think of or currently using. And then, the virtual assistant could just take care of it for you. Order something, put the delivery address, and, just send out to your client. Or maybe, send out emails for review solicitation. So another phone call again. So those are the other things that they do. Or maybe setting up events. I remember, because Richard does, events for realtors. It's either, a live workshop, a coffee meeting, or, any other drive, like for Homes for Heroes, as far as I can remember. So the virtual assistant can come in and, and helping you advertising the event, inviting people to the event, sending out invites or emails, and, calling again those who signed up, and, just give them the reminder and what have you, or have them text the realtors or other guests. So there's a couple.
Nice. Yeah.
And I just want to be clear on this, that again, the general the general point here is that there are things, or a lot of things, or variety of tasks that a virtual assistant can do for you for as long as it is online. However, we just need to make this clear that, of course, not everything can be done by one virtual assistant.
Right.
We're in the virtual assistant industry world, our job is very dynamic. It's not really like a regular employee that there's a set of tasks that they're supposed to do. Because later, for example, I've been doing phone calls for Richard now, and then maybe next week I've been doing the marketing for him, and maybe the week after next I'll be doing some blogging. So their responsibilities really change change over time, is very dynamic. However, you just need to provide like a venue for them to learn. You can't expect them to know everything, but if you have the platform, if you have those resources for
Right.
them to learn those new techniques, new strategies that you want to implement, and then please do so.
Yep,
But for
definitely.
expect them to know, because I've encountered clients or loan officers, because they're still in the process of getting to know the industry. You know what I mean? So this kind of like the expectation that, for example, somebody's doing social media, or a social media marketing strategist is like that, maybe because they're not comfortable doing some phone calls. The same with telemarketers or cold callers. Maybe they're boxed into that specific spectrum because, they haven't had the opportunity to work with social media.
Right.
So I hope
they
it's
have different ones have different strengths, and I always like to say I'm always going to hire attitude over experience, because somebody with a great attitude and the ability to learn and teach themselves way outweighs maybe some experience that they've had. So yeah, you make a really good point. Let's kind of hit some of the top questions that loan officers have. Like where do you find a virtual assistant?
So we find or outsource virtual assistants here in the Philippines. So that is, our main target market. However, we've had instances wherein, we hired people from Jamaica, Guatemala, but really our niche our niche revolves around, Filipino virtual assistants.
Right. And so it's the other side of the world. So do the virtual assistants work our time, or how does that work?
Yes, 100%. So we can just go back into the application process. So whenever we post an ad there, we basically note that this client is from the United States. So they know exactly that they'll be working on a graveyard shift. Like just like now here in the Philippines, it's 9:26 p.m. So
Right.
we're working nighttime. And most of our applicants, or most of the virtual assistants in today's market, have been a call center agent, which is kind of like a big industry here in Asia.
Right.
So when somebody worked from a call center agency, that means that they have been working on a graveyard shift. So that's kind of like their lifestyle, or have become their lifestyle, just like me.
Yes.
I'm an night owl.
Yeah.
I work at night, I'm awake at night, and just sleep during the day.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of here in the United States, when we grow up in, usually high school, and our first jobs are usually like retail or food service. In the Philippines, it's working in call centers. And so that's where a lot of Filipinos, two things, they get a lot of experience making phone calls and building rapport over the phone and handling objections. And then also they get used to working that graveyard shift. Like I never see any issues with virtual assistants, falling asleep at work and so forth, because they're used to it. And the good thing is it keeps them open with no distractions, because they're working the graveyard shift. So yeah, that's interesting. So what?
And also,
Mhm.
and also, in terms in relation to working in a call center, so this is somewhat, a common question as well. So do the virtual assistant in the Philippines speak great English? So, the only answer that I give them that is pretty much subjective, but I hold high standards, in terms of the English language. At the end of the day, what might be good to me might not be good to you in terms of the language. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But since, these virtual assistants are used to speaking to, American clients,
Right.
so, there's a tendency that they have emulated the American accent, or at least, close to the American accent.
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot is, do they have accents? And there are some there's Filipinos that have thick accents. We just don't
Yeah.
hire those if they're going to be making phone calls. If they're going
Yeah.
to be making phone calls, they're very articulate. I mean, you sound like an American. Nobody would know, if you made a phone call, they're going to think you're sitting in your office. And so, yeah, that's another common question. How do you, let's say you're a loan officer, you get a virtual assistant, how do you pay them?
Hmm. So there are a lot of platforms that's available in the market. There's PayPal, number one. So that's the most common platform to send money to the Philippines. And no, we don't have Zelle or Venmo here.
Right.
So that is not an option. We also do Wise Transfer or wise.com, wise.com. We also have Remitly. And if you want a list of those platforms available in today's market, and then our team can send it to you for your reference.
Yeah, I use PayPal. It's the easiest, but that leads me to another question that a lot of people ask is, are they W-2 employees? Are they 1099 employees? And no, they're not. They are contract employees. So what we have the virtual assistant do is every 2 weeks, they'll send us an invoice with their contract work that they accomplished, and then we pay them direct. So they're not true employees, but to the virtual assistant, of course they are. They're part of the team, and you want to treat them like everybody else that you have on your team. So that's an interesting thought. And another question, or did you want to comment on that before I move on to another?
Yes. Thank you for pointing the interval. So again, you pay your virtual assistants every 2 weeks. So that is a standard. So every other Friday via PayPal or other platforms that's available in the market that is acceptable here in the Philippines. And however, some clients would prefer 5th and the 25th, or 15th to 30th. Whichever is going to be, more convenient for you. And depending on your company as well, because there are loan officers who would reimburse the costs of hiring a virtual assistant. So that would depend as to what their company payout is, or payout interval is.
Nice.
So every is a standard.
Yep. Perfect.
And by the way, I also want to add, so typically not everybody would have the room of hiring a full-time virtual assistant. But when I say full-time virtual assistant, that would mean 40 hours per week or 8 hours per day. So typically clients can go from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So totally depending as to what's going to be more feasible for your business. But, if we have to work together, we need 10 hours per week, or at least that is the guaranteed hours. Even so, for example, hey, Gerard, I would just need 5 hours. It doesn't matter, for as long as the guaranteed hours to the virtual assistant is 10 hours per week, even if you're going to do it yourself. Because at the end of the day, for 10 hours, that's really the bare minimum, right? So chances are virtual assistants would still be looking for opportunities, that's offering more hours.
Right.
If you had to offer below 10 hours per week.
Yeah. I've always liked to hire full-time because there's plenty to have them do. But definitely loan officers do have us hire or help them hire somebody that is part-time. So it's really up to each individual to decide how many hours they want. So,
and also, you may ask, do they work weekends? So yes, they do. And sometimes they don't. So that would totally depend as to, what's going to be your agreement, because, virtual assistants are people too.
Right.
And, would would really enjoy the weekend realistically. So we've had, clients who's kind of like doing some offer, like, once a month, they have to work on a weekend instead.
Right. And that's a case by case basis, and
Mhm.
it's all agreed upon up front. So yeah, the expectations are there.
So
So
typically the regular or the normal is really, Mondays or Fridays. We've had clients who would want to have the virtual assistant work like Tuesdays to Saturdays, maybe once a month.
right.
Or we also have clients who's having the virtual assistant work for 12 hours per week and just working Mondays through Thursdays, no
Right.
Fridays.
Yep. So another question a lot of loan officers ask is, how do we communicate with the VA? What systems do they use to make phone calls and things like that?
Well, there's a lot of platforms. Number one, Zoom. They
Yep.
can communicate through Zoom. They can communicate through Skype, Skype, or Monday.com or Slack.com. And we've also had clients who's well versed with Facebook Messenger and would want to stay within Facebook Messenger. So they just use the Messenger to communicate.
And so
And
outbound
Google,
calls, do they
and Google
use phone burner? Do they use Skype, or can they, those are kind of the
yeah.
different options?
Yeah, Spring Central, if their company already has it. Um, Phone burner, Skype.com, Dialpad, Grasshopper.com. And if you guys would also want a reference, our team can also send you the list of available dialers in today's market.
Perfect. Yeah. Cool. So a lot of other loan officers ask a question, how do I know they're working? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think there are two ways. As you said it, Richard, it's all about the results. So virtual assistants are kind of like, this is the standard operating procedure that, as just like any other employee, virtual assistant is expected to check in with you at the start of their shift. So maybe around 9 or around 8, the virtual assistant would send you an email or send you a message that they're starting their day.
Yep.
And then making themselves available all throughout their shift. So if you're wanting to call them, that's fine. If you're wanting to, do a video call, that's fine. And they're expected to respond to you on a timely manner, not 2 hours later, not 3 hours later.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, they're expected to do some accountability report or the end of their report where, they have to detail everything that they've covered all throughout the day. For example, if they're doing some phone calls, and they might as well, quantify those calls. It's either the total number of calls per day, the number of appointments that's being set, the details of the appointments, the number of live calls, the number of dead numbers, and the number of voicemails. So
yeah. I really like managing people in general, regardless of who's on the team, but kind of managing by results. And if you're getting the results that you need, that's really all that matters. But having that end of day report is great too, because at the end of the day, and at the end of their shift, they tell you all the details of what they accomplished. One thing that I'll point out to loan officers is, you want to make sure you give some sort of quota or expectation. So if they're going to call 2 hours a day setting appointments, then you have to have an expectation that they schedule at least 1 to 2 appointments a day, or, an expectation of how many appointments you want set for the week. And then, what else are you going to have them do? It's not just making the phone calls and scheduling the appointment. It's also setting up in Calendly, making sure the reminders go out, making sure that the agents do show up to the meeting. So having a SOP and standard operating procedure really helps. And for anybody listening, that's another document or a set of documents that we can send you, are a bunch of SOPs that we've put together for different strategies and different projects that you're going to have your virtual assistant do.
And for clients, it's really wanting to have like 100% peace of mind. And then, they can opt for timedoctor.com, TIMEDOCTOR.com. But sometimes, basing on the feedback of other virtual assistants that, they feel uncomfortable, having that platform because, it takes screenshots randomly, any time of the day, any
Yeah,
time of the so
that's something I've
it
never
was,
used. Yeah, I've never used it because again, you know, you like any employee or any team member, you learn to trust and then you're managing by results. So I've just personally never had to use that or never wanted to because I want the results. I will
Mhm.
say the biggest mistake loan officers make when hiring a virtual assistant is getting the wrong person and then holding on to that person. That's why I think, of course, you can go out and try to find your own virtual assistant. You can go to onlinejobs.ph. You can
Mhm.
look around and try to find somebody, but that's where Remote Assistant Scout comes in because we ensure that you're going to get the right person, the right fit. And so that's, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Mhm. Oh yeah, so if you guys really want to do it on your own, that's 100% fine. And you can just visit onlinejobs.ph or maybe upwork.com. There's a lot of talent out there. Filipinos, Jamaicans, or other nationals, depending as to what's going to be more feasible for you. And that's the thing about our service, Remote Assistant Scout, because not or no system is perfect, right?
Yep.
However, it doesn't work with your current virtual assistant or with a virtual assistant that you hired, and then you have a peace of mind that you have your own team backing you up in case this happens. That's where we come in and doing the replacement for you, because we've encountered clients who've hired like do-it-yourself DIY hiring before, and yet they've been hiring for 5 times already. It's very time consuming. So that's where we came in and helped them out. So the practicality of it, and as well as saving yourself some time.
Definitely.
And I guess being in the business for 11 years, 5 years working as a mortgage virtual assistant, and then 6 years doing this outsourcing, I can call myself like, an expert in terms of finding mortgage virtual.
Definitely. Yeah, you're definitely an expert in finding the right people.
This is our niche. I was a virtual assistant. My boss was a mortgage lender, so it is my area of specialty, really.
Yep. That's great. And we're out of time. So what is there anything I forgot to ask you?
Um, Let me see here.
Anything you want to touch on at the end here?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. But if you guys want to know more about our service and how our team can help you out, or just basically if you want a pep talk about virtual assistant, and then just visit remoteassistantscout.com for more details, or to schedule your no obligation virtual assistant strategy call, and our team will be there and on standby to reach out to you and schedule this.
Yep, that's perfect. Yeah, and just a no obligation strategy call. You can find out more, answer any questions, things that maybe we didn't talk about today. We have that at remoteassistantscout.com. So awesome. All right, Gerard, it's been great having you here.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys learned something from this. And you just really need to contemplate on working your goals this year, getting more freedom by hiring a virtual assistant.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, talk to you soon, Gerard.
Thank you.